This ancient philosophy kills overthinking. Right now, as you're listening, a part of you is probably worrying about a work deadline. Another part is replaying an awkward conversation, wondering what someone really thought of you. And a dozen other thoughts are buzzing in the background. Bills, appointments, the constant draining pressure of modern life. This isn't just noise, it's a thief. It steals your focus, drains your energy, and leaves you feeling completely, utterly stuck. You're spinning your wheels in a mental mud pit. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. What if I told you there's a way to shut it all down? Not with some complicated new age trend, but with a simple, brutally effective trick developed over 2,000 years ago. A trick so powerful that emperors, generals, and playwrights used it to navigate war, politics, and plagues with a clear and calm mind. This isn't a magic pill. It's a mental tool. And once you learn how to use it, you can kill the noise of overthinking and finally start focusing on what truly matters. The problem, the overthinking epidemic. Let's be honest about what overthinking really is. It's not a deep, productive thought. It's not problem solving. It's the opposite. It is a state of paralysis. It's the mental hamster wheel that spins and spins but never goes anywhere. You're lying awake at 3 a.m., your heart pounding, not because of a real present danger, but because your mind has decided to run a dress rehearsal of every possible worst-case scenario. You have a big presentation tomorrow. Instead of preparing, you're trapped in a loop, imagining every way you could fail. You picture yourself stumbling over words, your colleagues looking bored, your boss looking disappointed. You feel the shame and embarrassment as if it has already happened. This isn't preparation, it's self-inflicted torture. This cycle is incredibly destructive. At work, it shows up as procrastination. That critical project, the one that could define your quarter, sits untouched. Not because you're lazy, but because the sheer weight of your anxious thoughts makes starting feel impossible. You're so worried about not doing it perfectly that you don't do it at all. In your relationships, overthinking is a poison. You dissect every text message, analyze every tone of voice, searching for hidden meanings. Why a period instead of an exclamation point? Did they sound distant on that call? This constant analysis creates friction and anxiety where there was none, often pushing people away and confirming your deepest fears. So much of this agony is driven by what psychologists call fear of social evaluation. That paralyzing worry about what others think of us. We edit our personalities, we dull our shine, all because we're terrified of someone else's judgment. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius thought it was a form of insanity to care more about a stranger's fleeting opinion than our own. The result of all this mental churning? Total exhaustion. You end your day not physically tired, but mentally shattered. You've run a marathon in your head and have nothing to show for it, but a profound sense of being drained and unproductive. This isn't living, it's being a prisoner in your mind, and you're the one building the walls, one anxious thought at a time. The turn, an ancient toolkit for a modern malady. But what if the key to escaping this prison wasn't about adding more complexity? More apps, more life hacks? What if it was about subtraction? About adopting a simple ancient operating system for the mind? This is the promise of Stoicism. Now, don't let the word philosophy intimidate you. Stoicism was never meant to be a stuffy academic exercise. It was designed for the battlefield of life. Its practitioners were people in the thick of it, people like Seneca, a famous playwright and advisor to the emperor, Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of history's most influential teachers, and Marcus Aurelius, the man who ruled the entire Roman Empire while wrestling with the same anxieties we face today. These thinkers weren't interested in abstract debates. They were focused on one question: how can we live a good, tranquil life when the world is so full of chaos? They understood that most of our suffering doesn't come from events, but from our judgments about those events. It's not the traffic jam that makes you angry. You judge that it shouldn't be happening. It's not a critical comment that hurts you. You judge that their opinion has power over your self-worth. This is where the ancient world offers us a lifeline. The Stoics developed mental tools to short-circuit these harmful judgments, and at the heart of their entire toolkit is one foundational, life-altering principle. It's the master key that unlocks the prison of overthinking, a concept they call the dichotomy of control, and it is the simple trick that will change everything. Section 1. The core principle, the great separation. The dichotomy of control is, at its heart, brutally simple. The philosopher Epictetus laid it out with stark clarity in his handbook, The Enchiridion. He wrote, "Some things are within our power while others are not." That's it. That's the whole concept right there. Within our power are our own thoughts, our opinions, our judgments, and our actions. Everything else? Not within our power. And that category is vast. It includes your body, your health, your reputation, what other people think of you, the economy, the weather, the past, and the future. According to the Stoics, the vast majority of our unhappiness, and especially the misery of overthinking, comes from a simple classification error. We fundamentally misunderstand what we have power over. We spend our precious time and energy wrestling with things that are, and always will be, completely outside of our control. Think about it. You're anxious about an upcoming flight. You worry about turbulence. You worry about delays. You spend hours catastrophizing. But can you personally control atmospheric pressure or the airline's logistics? Of course not. You're fighting a battle with reality itself, a battle you are guaranteed to lose. Or you made a mistake at work, and now you're consumed by what your boss thinks of you. You replay the error over and over, wishing you could turn back time. But can you control your boss's internal thoughts? Can you rewind the clock? No. You're trying to control another person's mind and the unchangeable past. It's an impossible task, and the mental friction it creates is the engine of overthinking. The Stoic trick, then, is to ruthlessly and consistently apply this filter to every single worry. It's to pause, take a breath, and perform what we can call the great separation. It's a conscious, deliberate act of sorting your anxieties into two baskets. In one, you place the things that are truly up to you, your choices, your responses, your efforts. In the other, much larger basket, you place everything else. This mental sorting is revolutionary. It immediately clarifies where your energy should go. Instead of wasting it on the vast, untamable ocean of things you can't control, you focus it entirely on the small, manageable island of your actions. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This isn't about apathy. It's not about giving up. It's about strategic surrender. It's about letting go of the unwinnable fights so you can pour all your strength into the ones that matter. The fights within your mind. This is the first, most critical step to silencing the noise. Section 2, How to Apply the Trick, a practical step-by-step guide. Understanding the dichotomy of control is one thing. Applying it in the middle of an anxiety spiral is something else entirely. So let's break this down into a practical, repeatable exercise. Think of it as mental first aid for an overthinking mind. Step 1, isolate the worry. When you feel that familiar cloud of anxiety, the first step is to stop and name the beast. Overthinking loves vague, undefined dread. You have to drag it into the light. Don't just say, "I'm stressed about work." Get specific. What's the exact thought causing the turmoil? For example, "I'm worried my boss will think my report is garbage and it will kill my reputation." Or, "I'm anxious about that party tonight because I won't know anyone and I'm afraid I'll just stand in the corner looking awkward." Writing it down helps create instant distance and clarity. Step 2, perform the great separation. Now, take that specific worry and run it through the Stoic filter. Draw a line down a piece of paper. On one side, write "in my control." On the other, "not in my control." This simple act is the core of the whole exercise. Let's use our work example. "I'm worried my boss will think my report is garbage and it will kill my reputation." What's in the "not in my control" column? What my boss ultimately thinks of the report. My boss's mood when they read it. Whether they were just wowed by a colleague's report. My ultimate reputation, which is just a collection of other people's opinions. The past mistakes I might have already made in the report. Now, what's in the "in my control" column? The effort I put into writing and editing the report. Double-checking the data for accuracy before I send it. Asking a trusted colleague for feedback beforehand. How I present the report and answer questions about it. My attitude and professionalism no matter what feedback I get. My choice to learn from any criticism to make the next report better. See the shift? The first list is a recipe for helpless anxiety. The second is a concrete action plan. Step 3, radically accept one column. Now, look at the "not in my control" list. The Stoic approach here isn't to ignore these things, but to practice radical acceptance. You have to accept them like you accept the weather. You don't rage at the sky when it rains, you just grab an umbrella. In the same way, you accept that your boss's final opinion is external to you. It's a fact of nature outside your command. Fighting it is as futile as yelling at a cloud. Tell yourself, "This is not mine to control. I am letting it go." It's not easy, but it's a declaration of peace in a war you were never going to win. Step 4, take action on the other column. This is where you take your power back. Look at your "in my control" list. This is your entire world now. Your only job is to execute on this list. Instead of spinning in circles about your boss's potential reaction, your energy now flows into productive action. You are no longer a passive victim of your anxiety. You are an active agent in your own life. Your job isn't to create a perfect outcome. That's impossible. Your job is to make a perfect effort. The Stoics would say you control the attempt, not the result. By repeating this four-step process, identify, separate, accept, and act, you're retraining your brain. You're building a new mental habit that short-circuits the overthinking loop before it gets going. You are learning to distinguish between fruitless worry and productive concern. Section 3. Putting it to the test. Real-world scenarios. Let's see how this ancient trick can defuse the ticking time bombs of modern anxiety. Scenario A, the overwhelming work deadline. You have a massive project due in a week. The scope is huge. You're depending on two notoriously slow colleagues, and the panic is setting in. Your mind starts racing. We'll never finish. This is going to be a disaster. My career is on the line. Why are my colleagues so unreliable? Let's apply the Stoic trick. Identify. The core worry is, I will fail to meet the deadline because of things I can't control, and it will be seen as my fault. Separate. Not in my control. The past week when you felt you slacked off. The work habits of your colleagues. Your boss's final judgment on the project. In my control. Breaking the project into small daily tasks. The quality of your work today. Communicating clearly with your colleagues. Creating a backup plan. How you choose to spend this very next hour. Accept. You accept that your colleagues might be slow. You can't change them with worry. That is an external reality. You accept that the outcome isn't totally up to you. Act. You ignore the storm of what ifs. You look at your in my control list and take the smallest step. You open a document and list 5 key tasks for the day. You send a polite, clear email. Hi both. To stay on track, I'll need your input on X and Y by Tuesday afternoon. Please let me know if that works for you. You've just shifted from panic to professional, focused action. You've taken your power back. Scenario B, the terror of social anxiety. You're invited to a networking event. Your mind floods with negativity. I'm going to be so awkward. No one will talk to me. People will think I'm boring. I should just stay home. Let's kill the noise. Identify. I'm afraid other people will judge me negatively and I'll feel humiliated. Separate. Not in my control, whether people talk to you first, what they think of your job or your jokes, the overall vibe of the event. In my control. Your decision to go. Your goal for the night, e.g., I will try to have one good conversation. The questions you ask others. Your posture. Your choice to be curious about others instead of focusing on yourself. Your decision to leave gracefully after an hour if you want. Accept. You must accept that some people might not like you. That's a statistical fact of life and has zero bearing on your actual worth. You can't control the thoughts inside their heads. Act. Your mission is no longer be liked by everyone. It's act with kindness and courage. You focus on being a good listener. You prepare 1 or 2 open-ended questions. You transform a terrifying ordeal into a simple exercise in practicing your character. Whether anyone notices is irrelevant. You will know you acted with virtue. Section 4. Why this ancient trick works so well today. There's a reason this 2,000-year-old technique feels so in sync with modern psychology. It's because it's a foundational pillar of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of today's most effective treatments for anxiety. CBT works on the principle that our psychological problems come from faulty or unhelpful ways of thinking. By identifying and challenging those distorted thoughts, we can change how we feel and act for the better. That is exactly what the dichotomy of control does. It directly challenges the cognitive distortion that we should be able to control everything. It forces us to test our anxious thoughts against reality. Marcus Aurelius was essentially doing CBT on himself every morning in his journal. In one stunningly modern passage, he wrote, "Today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it, because it was within me, in my perceptions, not outside." He understood centuries ago that anxiety wasn't something that attacked him, but an internal judgment he had the power to dismiss. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about performing better. When your mental energy isn't wasted on unwinnable fights with things you can't control, you have a huge surplus of focus to pour into what matters. You become more resilient, proactive, and effective. You stop being a leaf in the wind, tossed around by every circumstance, and you become the sailor who, while unable to control the wind, can masterfully adjust the sails. The noise in your head is not you. That endless loop of worries is not your true self. It's just a bad habit of thought. And like any habit, it can be broken and replaced with a better one. The trick, the ancient secret, is the great separation, the dichotomy of control. It's a simple tool, but that doesn't mean it's always easy. It takes practice, vigilance, and the courage to let go. but it is the most powerful weapon you have against the tyranny of overthinking. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 24 hours, try it. Every time you feel that spike of anxiety, that mental noise, stop. Take a breath. And ask yourself the question Epictetus asked 2,000 years ago. Is this within my power or not? Focus only on what is yours to control. Your actions, your choices, your character. Let everything else go. Accept it like you accept the rain and the sun. Do this, and you will discover a quiet space in the middle of the storm. You will find that you have the power to kill the noise. You have the power to reclaim your focus. You have the power to find peace, not because the world has become peaceful, but because you have found it within yourself.